Today we're going to tie a couple old-fashioned soft hackles, except we're going to add a little bit of a modern twist to it. And I'm starting out with a 1x long standard nymph wet fly hook. And for thread, 12/0 classic wax semper fly in fluorescent orange. When tying my soft hackles, I like to attach the thread right where I want the soft hackle to actually be on the hook. And this will leave room in the front here to finish off a head. The body on a soft hackle is actually really sparse. It's supposed to be sparse. So I'm going to take it down not as far as I normally would when tying a nymph. And I'm going to stop it right just about and right behind the point of that hook. And I'm going to make a very, very sparse body, just a couple wraps, enough to cover the hook shank, so that it appears one solid color. For a thorax, I'm going to use hare's ear ice dub, and this is just the plain hare's ear color. Use very little bit, just very sparse amount, just enough to create a little bit of a thorax there. Okay, now where I want to tie in that hackle. And we're using natural Hungarian partridge. And I'm going to grab this by the tip. Kind of pull some of those fibers back off that tip. Hungarian partridge is so brittle. And it's really hard to find good sturdy stems that are going to hold up to a little bit of wear. Once I have it separated, I'm going to clip off the end just to leave that little triangle. That will give us a little bit of a tie-in point there. Something to capture with our thread. And I'm going to stop the thread right where I want to wind the hackle to. Our hackle pliers. As I wrap this around the hook, stroke those feathers back. Couple turns. Tie off. One thing I always like about soft hackles, the ones that I tie, is I do like to make a little bit of a head there. It's a little extra color, a hot spot, if you will. Finish. And we're done. And there you go. There is the partridge and orange. And I tie the partridge and olive using all the same steps. And something to keep in mind when tying soft hackles is that how your hackle turns out a lot of times will depend on the actual feather you select to hackle the fly with. In this case, we're using partridge, and there's a lot of disparity sometimes in the color in a package of feathers. You know, some can be lighter colored, like I just used on the orange, and some can have kind of a brownish tint to them, like we're using here on the olive. So just something to keep in mind when you're actually selecting which feather out of the package to use for what color. You know, a lot of that is personal preference, and you can kind of play around with that to match the insects in your area. Also, how many turns you can do with the hackle will depend on the hackle you select. Sometimes I'll start with it heavy just because as I catch a few fish, that hackle will naturally start to thin out, and starting out heavy will prolong the life of the fly. These are a couple of great classic patterns to add to your fly box, and soft hackles in general are just a lot of fun to tie.